Welcome back to Invest Global. Today we're going to take a macro view of the housing market from the perspective of looking at the actual materials necessary to build the houses. So I talk about this in a lot of the other videos on Invest Global, basically discussing instead of trying to bet on which horse will win the race, instead of trying to bet on which stock will win the race in the electric vehicle space, for example, you can bet on the commodities that each of these stocks or each of these horses running the race need to actually compete. So a great example of that for electric vehicles is something like lithium, something like copper, cobalt. These are all very, very important commodities in electric vehicle batteries, especially lithium and solid state batteries, which are really the future of electric vehicles. But for houses, these things stay pretty stable. I mean, it's wood. It's so lumber prices. This is the chart of lumber futures. So if you're a commodities trader, you could have been trading this. And I mean, it's had this ridiculous rise. I mean, this is a historical chart. We're on the monthly time frame. So each of these candles represent a month going all the way back to 1973. This is the type of chart that I like to look at with commodities where it's like, okay, even if the Federal Reserve says they aren't seeing inflation, and they've said that many times in the past and have been wrong, we're seeing it in charts like this. We're seeing it in commodities charts. I don't think this is really reflected into gold and silver quite yet, monetary metals, but rather they're being used, and silver is technically a utility metal as well. So you could call gold, but they're a bit more in the monetary metal space than something like a uranium, for example. So uranium's done incredibly well. Copper's done incredibly well. We're seeing a lot of commodities doing very, very well, especially if you had exposure to the miners of these actual commodities. That gave you a very, very nice exposure. So the other things we're going to be going over today are just some key articles I think are interesting to take a look at for this kind of view of the market. But let's get right into it. Let me know throughout the video if you have any questions. Let me know in the comments down below. I'm happy to answer them individually, or if you have an idea for a video topic that you would like to see, let me know. Also, go check out the recent video I did kind of on the macro economy, just with inflation and everything with the Federal Reserve. If you're interested in those, I did that, I think, around 2 to 3 days ago. It's just called Invest Global Macro View for, it's like May somewhere in May of 2021, basically. So we see here this again. Okay, the reason with any video that I look at all these different news sources is because I try and stay objective. So I try and see what CNBC is saying. I want to see what Fox is saying. I want to see what NPR is saying, like National Public Radio. I want to see what the most alternative media is saying. So I want to have kind of all the extreme ends of the spectrum so I can gain kind of the balanced approach. Like look at both sides of the argument and find a synthesis. So I talk about this a lot with a methodology when it comes to investing, but thesis, antithesis, synthesis. So you form your thesis, you test it against an opposing argument, so an antithesis. Ideally, you seek out disconfirming evidence and take it seriously, iterate and improve on your initial thesis based on the antithesis, what you learned, and then form a new synthesis. The synthesis becomes the new thesis. And it's the same with this. Looking at these kind of different articles of how they're portraying it, this is a pretty objective situation because it doesn't matter what your opinion is. It's objective that, lumber prices have done this literally in the past, since the start of the pandemic, May. And then we saw this kind of top here, bottomed out here. But it's doing really, really well. I think we will see higher highs on this lumber chart if you are trading this, by the way. We are in this kind of parabolic run up, but we could see a short-term pullback. Maybe we'll close this monthly candle somewhere closer to here around the 125 mark, and then have kind of a nice little pushback up. So as I was saying with this Wall Street Journal article, they're basically talking about that prices have surged in American homes. This is causing the actual underlying cost of the house itself to increase. So you can see crude oil is kind of dragging here. Copper is this yellow line, and lumber is just kind of have peaked off here. Even when we're starting out this year in 2019, this is interesting because the top on this chart, it's completely all reversed. I mean, copper stayed the same, but crude oil flipped to be the bottom, and lumber is, as far as just futures pricing, has really had those crazy highs. So more than 80% since October. Copper, which carries water and electricity throughout houses, costs about a third more than it did in autumn. So prices for granite, insulation, concrete blocks, and common bricks have all pushed to records in 2021. So that's important to take into mind. I'm choosing lumber kind of as the main indicator for the house. But there definitely it is important to look at, concrete prices. It's important to look at granite prices, brick prices, all these different things. But mainly lumber is one of the biggest things. But in crude oil also drives a lot of other macro indicators. I talked about that in the previous video on the Invest Global macro outlook. So drywall and ceramic tiles are short of records, but have also climbed. The materials producers like paint makers, Sherwin-Williams Company, you can see their ticker right here is SHW, and flooring manufacturers like Mohawk, MHK, as well as builders like DH Horton, DHI, HOV, have been raising prices to pass along higher costs. They thank historically low borrowing costs, federal stimulus payments, and the hunt for yield that has sent investors barreling into the home rental business. I completely agree. But that is inflation. We are literally seeing upfront inflation, even if the Fed doesn't recognize it. This, again, go watch that video. I talk a lot about there. But you have to look at things like this to see inflation prices, or really inflation affecting the market kind of upfront, because you don't see them really in consumer prices until later down the line. It starts upping things like housing, then cost of living is going up. You have to think rents have to match that. And then people's overall monthly expenses go up. So do the prices in the grocery store. So do these things. We start to see this kind of lagging inflation. Some people call it stagflation. We could see there is a case for a short-term deflationary cycle as long as we continue to prop up this market. The deflation case is basically this idea that we will have to continue to prop up this market. Otherwise, we will see a terrible recession. So who knows exactly what's going to happen, but that's why I talk a lot about the Federal Reserve and the Treasury. For more macro topics like that, just subscribe to the channel or check out our playlist. It's called like macro. I think it might just literally be called macro. There's a playlist that talks about more things like this. So let's move on to the next article. I don't want to spend too much on one. Soaring lumber prices add $36,000 to the cost of a new home, and a fierce land grab is only making it worse. The key points of this article: the surge in lumber prices in the past year has added $35,872 to the price of an average new single-family home and $12,966 of the market value of an average new multifamily home, according to I think that's the National Association Housing Bureau, the NAHB. We have seen over the past 4 to 5 months, what I have never seen in my career before is lumber to move to the level it has, says Cheryl Palmer, CEO of Taylor Morrison Home. New lot supply is down 20% from a year ago, according to Zonda. So that's a lot in this article, but basically you take these in as, again, it is CNBC, so they do have a bias here. But and again, don't get offended when I say bias. It's literally just the fact. You know, they have to. Every media company basically has a bias. That's why I look at multiple sides of an argument. So let's see here from National Business Capital. Could lumber prices in 2020 affect your small business? This is quite interesting because this is an article more tailored to let's say you're a realtor, or let's say you're a home builder or flipper, anyone like this, a big developer. This is kind of a great article for you. Also, I do recommend this channel. Let me go on YouTube here and look up Ken McElroy. Ken McElroy. Yes, there we go. This is a guy I highly recommend. Ken McElroy. He is great as far as real estate on YouTube. I'm talking about multifamily. He literally just talked about this. That's hilarious. Discussing, oh wow, okay, that was streamed 1 day ago, so that's great. Maybe I'll have to check that out. You know, they discuss all these different things in that, so I would recommend seeing that. Maybe I'll have a link to his YouTube channel so you guys can check him out, but more on real estate stuff, just because he's a niche area expertise in the United States. So I recommend, if you're specifically interested in real estate in the United States, Ken McElroy is a great person, but I don't follow him very closely because I'm not investing in United States real estate. I more look for emerging market real estate opportunities. There are obviously some pros of building in the United States because I'm a citizen there, but when I look at the macro economy, I just can't help getting into those prices. I think the United States is ridiculously over leveraged. Again, that's my opinion. You shouldn't take that opinion and just adopt it yourself. You should look into what's been going on in the macro economy and form your own thesis. So let's see. Insane lumber prices mean new homes cost $24K more. This is kind of adding on top of this article we were looking at of 36,000. So they're saying 24K. This was on March 16th of 2021. This was on April 30th. So that makes sense. This article, I've read all these before, but basically you can check this one out. I'll have everything linked, obviously. You can check this one out after this, going over the same key points essentially. So this is the National Association of Home Builders. So that's I got it exactly right. So You can see here, this is their newest article on higher lumber costs add more than 35K to new home prices at 119 to monthly rent. That is important to see. Again, guys, this is things that you're seeing in the market where it's like you need to watch the dollar index, you need to watch lumber prices, you need to watch commodities. That's why I always talk about starting out with macro factors and then going into, if you like blockchain technology, if you like stocks, if you like commodities, then go into those things and kind of do your own research. But start off with a bird's eye view of the market. That's how I recommend, if you are investing full time, even if you're just day trading and you're interested in macro, structure your day like that. Kind of go bird's eye view so you kind of have some perspective going into the micro on the daily, and then you can always kind of check in on the macro and zoom out. So it's kind of a process of zooming in and zooming out on a map. And trying to stay objective as possible. So that's all for today's episode. Again, go check out Ken McElroy. Join our Telegram group where it's like-minded people discussing all topics that I talk about on this channel. That's link for that down below. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. What else would you like to see in the commodities market? I am curious, so let me know. That's all for this one. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, button all, invest global, and until next time.